Hello, fellow starseeds, and just anybody else that's tuning in and listening. There's a term that's going around a lot lately. You see it on the Gaia Network a lot of YouTube videos being made about the Anunnaki. I do Akashic Records readings, so I go traveling through the universe. I get people's universal stories, every life that you've lived throughout the universe and on this earth. And that is very beneficial to people to help you understand the life that you are currently living, what your mission is on this earth to help this earth and to help your fellow people, and also why you react certain ways to certain things. Your energy stores all of those lifetimes. That is actually your knowledge information system, is your energy or your soul, whatever you want to call it. It is not just your mind. Your mind makes this biotech body function. So I do a lot of work in the Akashic Records. So, of course, I've done my own Akashic Records readings. And I was a member of the original seven Anunnaki. So instead of just going through your typical short run of these beings and their existence, I'm going to introduce you to them one by one and go through their stories. To start off, there were 8 kings of Sumeria, and they reigned for 200,000 crazy years, lived very long lifespans. They were descendants of these original Anunnaki that came to Earth. The Anunnaki that came to Earth were here to seed the Earth in different ways. So each one had a role to play, had a job to do in creating this Earth and making intelligent beings. So this was when they were here, this was a time of universal knowledge, moving the earth forward at the beginning of ancient civilizations that we still see the ruins of today. And as humans, we evolved at this time. We were given universal DNA from just primate DNA to have us evolve, have us be more intelligent, be able to do the things that we do. So, as you are going to notice as I go through this story, I am going to sound very contradictory to what a lot of other people are saying about the Anunnaki. And that's okay. They could say whatever they want. This is my truth from my story and from me going through my Akashic records and gaining that knowledge about these beings. So they knew alchemy, they knew magic, telepathy, they had whatever psychic ability you could possibly think of, time travel, portals, wormholes, contacts with all the other universal beings. They weren't just here and showed up of their own accord. This was a universal thing. So they gave us knowledge on life, and at the time, it was environmentally very clean, very technological, and the earth was linked through ley lines and power spots. And so the entire world was connected. And I will end up showing you this and some images. You will see the same imagery repeated throughout the whole world. That means the earth was linked and they communicated. This is what we call the Atlantean system. Atlantis was is not just one place, one city, the way that it has been described to humans. It was a link of all knowledge, all time, all places, all at one time. So nobody is going to be able to find Atlantis. Any, treasure hunters or archaeologists, anybody like that. It's not just one place. It was a system. So we also need to understand that science and archaeology need to catch up to the fact that ancient people were far more technologically advanced than we currently are. They cannot build the things that they built unless they were. There is no possible way. And none of these places were built by slave labor. You cannot have a bunch of malnourished, beaten to death, tortured to death people building places like Göbekli Tepe, the Giza Plateau, the temples in Mesoamerica, the monoliths in all over the European areas, and the same artwork in all of these places. They were highly technical, very clean energy, and as far as I'm concerned, everybody has the right to sue their governments because even during the Industrial Revolution, Nikola Tesla built and demonstrated free renewable energy. The oligarchs said, no, we can't have that. We need to be super rich and we're going to mine fossil fuels. So we have crappy air, our waters are polluted, the land is polluted, the earth is crying, and she's fighting back. That's why you see all these different weather systems and earthquakes and volcanoes and just craziness happening. We have done that to our planet. And humans are the only thing living on this planet that willingly destroy their own environment. And it is all because of greed. So I'll move past that because that could be a whole other podcast for a whole different day. But there are a lot of people out there claiming that the Anunnaki came here to make a slave race to mine gold. Did they create a human species to mine gold? Yes, they did. They were not slaves. Not in You cannot think of slavery in the terms that we view it today. Like I said, you cannot get these things done when you are malnourished, beaten, tortured, and horrible things are happening to you. So, through my going through the Akashic records, this is the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, the Yaren, whatever you want to call it, that race of humans in our family tree. And our family tree does not go from that typical, you know, we're down here, we didn't know how to walk, and then we're rising up, rising up, rising up, and then there's Homo sapiens, like this vertical line thing. It actually looks like what a normal family tree would look like. So you had Neanderthals mating with other races of humanoids, and they had offspring here and over here and over here. It literally looks like a giant family tree. That's the way it works. The only thing that's not included in that currently is the Bigfoot race. And they're all over the world. All ancient peoples that, indigenous peoples, I should say, know about these creatures. They talk about them all the time. They're very well aware of them. And those, I don't even want to call them creatures because they are part of our human DNA. They are very well aware of Homo sapiens and what we do and the violence that we cause. And they don't want anything to do with us. That's why they're so elusive. They also have not lost that ancient knowledge. They know how to use portals. They know how to cloak themselves. They know how to get from dimension to dimension. And they hide from us for a reason. And until science actually has a specimen of something, they're never going to acknowledge that it exists. They also say that they bury their dead. And even if that is not true, it's hard to even find a dead bear out in the wilderness because decomposition happens so rapidly and everything, every bit of that animal is consumed. That's the way of life. So these are the people that were, yes, created to do mining of gold. They're very strong, obviously. They could get a lot of work done, obviously. But here's the thing about gold. Yes, the Anunnaki wanted gold, but they wanted it in non atomic form. So, Abzu in ancient South America is the birthplace of gold. So, the Anunnaki needed the non atomic form of gold, which is the white part of gold, gold powder. In my work in the Akashic Records, I learned a lot of things that this type of gold can do. So there is a scientist named David Hudson. He was at MIT. He ran experiments on non-atomic gold and he found that it is a superconductor. It emits a white single frequency. The light heals cells and DNA. It has anti-gravity properties and it transmutes between 700 and 800 degrees. And he also had it on a plate and put his hand underneath of his sample and it levitated. So we have non atomic gold within our bodies. I buy non atomic gold. I put it on my face, I put it in my hair, I take it internally because I know that it can help me on a cellular level. It has a lot of healing properties, but it also has a lot of properties that can be used in technology. And let's go back to that levitating thing. There were not people dragging around tons and tons of stone to build all of these ancient sites. They knew how to make things levitate. They knew how to use electromagnetic fields and pulses. In fact, the guy that built the Coral Castle in Florida, you guys can Google this. I'm not going to go into this in detail here, but he had a black box that was levitated and he kept it covered. He didn't want anybody to know exactly what he was using to build the Coral Castle. These pieces are very heavy. They cannot be lifted by one person. He did this all by himself. He was using these kinds of technologies. So he knew about them. So please understand that this slave race was not in any way slavery as we think about it today, and the horrible things that humans have done to other humans. Yes, they came here to make life, and you can think of it as like current life. There are jobs that need to be done so that life can continue. There needs to be people that do those jobs. Same thing here, except for there are different ways of creating life. It's not just like humans where we have to have sex and you know egg and sperm meet and then you have a baby. There are a ton of different ways that you can make life within the universe. So the Anunnaki linked the world through these ley lines, through the architecture. The Great Pyramid in Egypt, obelisks have been proven by Nikola Tesla. It was a power system. It was a power plant. It was clean energy. So I will I will get into Nikola Tesla a little bit later as we go along here. But they did create the Homo sapien race by altering DNA of primates. Since we come from primates, obviously our closest living relative is the chimpanzee, they can be very aggressive. Humans have not seemed to learn to let that aggression go. There is no need for violence. There is no need for war. There is plenty for everybody. The problem is humans work off of a greed system. And they did learn their obsession of gold from the Anunnaki, but they took it and turned it into something monetary, something that can make you very rich and everybody else very poor. So the group of deities that were the original Anunnaki, there were seven, and their names were An or Anu, there's Enlil, there's Enki, there's Ninhursag or Kai is another one of her names. There's Nana, there's Uttu, and there's Inanna. So these seven are where everything started to branch off and they started intermingling with humans and having, you know, life sprout out here and sprout off there. And then you get, you know, the kings of Sumeria and on and on and on. So you also need to keep in your mind as you listen to this that there is more than one way to create life. It is not like it is right now on Earth. They had lots of children. Their story reads like a modern day soap opera with incest involved, if you wanted to talk about it in our terms today. But obviously, that's not the way it worked when the Anunnaki were here, and it is not the way that it works within the universe. That is an earthly human concept. So, first you have Enlil, and Enlil is one of the great gods of Mesopotamia, bearing the epitaph of the father of the gods, king of heaven and earth, king of all lands, establisher of kingship. So he kind of established ruling over these masses of life that they were creating. His name is usually translated to as Lord Air. He appears in the earliest Sumerian text, but its meaning is a little bit disputed. So it's air, wind, breath of the universe. The breath of the universe is literally love. That is the breath of the universe. So in terms of his genealogy, he is said to be the firstborn of Anu, and then Hersag or Kai, which is the Earth Mother. And he was regarded very well in ancient Mesopotamia. So he named his temple there Eker, um, and he was featured prominently in the personal names from all of the periods in that Mesopotamian era. So he's the subject of numerous Sumerian hymns and Babylonian prayers. So you'll see his name a lot in those clay carved tablets and writings from that time. And Enlil is next to Anu in rank. So he is descendant from Anu and Kai. So they all have different personalities, just like people today, just like animals today. We all have our own personality, our own thing. So Enlil is always embodying energy and force rather than calm. A chill authority would be Anu. So the title N, it stands for Lord in the sense of control and active power, meaning he's the main agent of his father, Anu. But you also need to go back to his name, the breath of the universe. That is love. So, yes, he was like the first enforcer, but with love and not violence. Then we come to Enki. Enki is the Sumerian god of sweet, fertilizing waters, of the deep, of the rivers, all of that. He's a patron of all of the crafts, magic, and wisdom. So he was later known as A by the Babylonians and Assyrians. So he was the god who is friendlier to humankind and who interacted a lot more with humankind and goddesses and females with graciousness. He understood the power of females. We are definitely not below men. We never should have been put that way. That's another podcast for another day. But it is said, he who creates, he is the one who can think, plan, and organize, as well as advise and use wide understanding and magic to solve what is apparently beyond possible solution. So, manifesting his power through wit and wisdom, ingenuity, and subtlety. And Enki and his twin sister, which I don't really get into her too much here, but her name was Ereshkigal. They were born from the sadness that Anu felt when he was torn apart from his twin Kai, or Ninhursag. So he created them psychically with his mind and from tears and from sadness. So that is how Inky was brought into existence. Next, we have Ninhursag, or Kai, was her original name. As I've gone through my Akashic records and gotten my entire universal story, I was her. I remember this life very well. I remember what I did. I remember being so close to my twin, Anu. I have contact with him still in this life and some past lives on Earth. He has been a native person of the Americas. His name is Blazing Sky. As you can see behind me, I have a red-tailed hawk, and he is a red-tailed hawk. So I still feel that distance. I still feel that pain of not actively having him in my life. So he would be what humans consider a twin flame. But also remember, you guys that are always like, I gotta find my twin flame. Twin flames relationships aren't always good. They can be very, very volatile, just as a side note there. So, Kai, she was conceived together with Anu, the Sky Father. Anu is the Sky Father. And she is Earth, land. So we have the first mystical understanding and rationalization for the physical reality, as in the living earth, that enables all sorts of growth. She is the soul counterpart to Anu, and Kai is therefore the first sister beloved of Anu. And because he is the Sky Father and she is Mother Earth, this is where we get the saying, as above, so below. And because this is, very close to me, I have a lot more of her story than some of the other members of the Anunnaki. But um, she was a consort of Enlil for a while. Like I said, they were like intermingling, getting it on with everybody and all that kind of stuff. Her first constant partner was Inky, so that would have been the son that Anu created out of his sadness and loss of Kai. So he is the god of fertilizing the waters of the deep in magic and all crafts. So they combined for a while and did a lot of great things together. And to better understand that relationship, it's like from the great gods and goddesses came metals, all animals, every tree, every blossom, you know, every form of life on Earth. So I had a huge part in creating parts of this Earth. And no, there wasn't just one God that created Earth. There was many people that took place creating this planet and the universe and the galaxy and all of this. So she was very aware of alchemy and all forms of any psychic ability, making things grow, and coming up with new forms of life to grow. And some of her attributes, which I still carry with me today, literally, She was very divine feminine, very untamed, very wild. She's very assertive within herself. She is not male dependent or male identified. She responds in kind to the masculine principle by detaining and applying power in equal measure. So I am the same way in all of these aspects. I will not be in a relationship with a man unless he is literally my equal. I will not tolerate somebody that tries to put me below them because they have a penis. That does not fly with me. You should support me. You should want me to grow and do awesome, wonderful things and applaud me along the way. And I would do the same for the person that I'm with. Unfortunately, most of the men I encounter have not evolved to be able to do this in their life yet. And those that have, I absolutely applaud you because you have it going on. So she encompasses the vision of feminine that is primeval, it's whole and full of vitality. So very sacred feminine. Sacred feminine runs in me very deeply. And not just because of this lifetime, but because of the other lifetimes that I've lived in the universe and on Earth. All of my earthly lives have been female, and anything that has gone on within the universe has been very feminine oriented. Then we get into Nana. He is the moon god. So Nana's future mother was, the story is, she was raped by a very arrogant, powerful young god, and Enlil, who he's then tried for this because there is still a justice system with these people. So Enlil is tried by the great gods and he's condemned to the underworld. Now, once again, you cannot think of rape in terms that we think of it today. These were two people that got together. Somebody was going to have a baby, but for whatever reason, that match wasn't supposed to happen. Like I said, I've gotten more of my story in the Akashic records than some of the rest of the Anunnaki, but that's what happened. So he was punished, he was sent to the underworld. And Enlil, already pregnant with Nana, descends into the underworld after Enlil to bring him back to the heights above. And then Nana is conceived out of youthful impulsiveness. So get rid of that word rape, insert youthful impulsiveness. Now, his coming will bring a change and growth for his divine parents. So they've grown, they've learned from their mistakes and the things that have happened, as we all do as we get older and go through life and do stupid things. Um, so Nana decides his fate. And the result of their union could not be more auspicious. Inanna, or Ishtar, is one of the products of this. And she's considered the morning and evening star, the future great goddess. She was loved by her people and her kingdom, and I'll get into that in a second. She's also a goddess of love and war, and the sun god and light of day is what Inanna is called. So Nana, the moon god, his connection with light and fertility to include all aspects of fruitfulness and agriculture, especially in summer. So, as you look at all of the old ancient sites, they all follow astronomical patterns. They're either tracking the sun, they're tracking the moon, they're tracking Orion, they're tracking Sirius, they're tracking other star constellations. There is a reason for this. It tracks down from the Anunnaki. And we get to Uttu. He is the heavenly force that brings warmth, which causes the plants to grow. So Kai would bring and create life. Atu would bring light and warmth, which makes that life grow. So Atu's social role is as a guardian of justice. As judge of gods and men, in such a position, he presides in the morning courts as the one we know from like bathhouse rituals, where demons and other evildoers are sued by their human victims. So, this is where you get the concept of baptism. You're dunking yourself in water, trying to cleanse yourself of these negative, bad spirits. Well, Uttu would take care of business for the humans that have been done wrong by these entities. And at night, Uttu judges and disputes among the dead of the underworld. So he is the last appeal of the wronged. So once you die, you're in the underworld. You can appeal the reason why you are there. And you also need to understand that anything could have been brought back to life. Death was not the end. They just didn't dig a hole or cremate somebody like we do today, and okay, they're gone. Bye. Life could continue. And we also know this through the Akashic records, past life regression, that our energy goes from body to body, from place to place, and lives different lives. And we get to Inanna. She was a little bit of a hellraiser. Um, she became very revered in Urnuk, which is the land she presided over. And what she did to get that adulation was, while Inky was drunk, she stole from him the knowledge and then brought it to the people of Urnuk. And what that knowledge included was shepherdship, kingship, priesthood, not as we talk about priesthood today, life and death, sex, love, war, music, words, arts and crafts, wisdom, joy, righteousness, and all manner of every human experience. That is the knowledge that she stole from Inky and brought to the people that she was supposed to be looking after. So they thought she was just fantastic. Look at this gal. She brought us all of this knowledge, and look at us go. But they were not supposed to have all of that knowledge. And so she bestowed these gifts to her people, Inky was obviously not impressed and not happy. So Inanna was sentenced to the underworld. And that is also called Kur, by the way, the underworld. And she also wanted to attend her brother-in-law's funeral, which he was in the underworld. So she wanted to travel there, but she thought that she could leave there after this and didn't quite grasp that no, 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 you've done this and this and this and this, and you're not leaving here. You're being very arrogant about the situation. Um, she also wanted to rescue a dead lover. And Inanna had a lot of offspring that were very evil. And some humans would classify them as demons. There are a race of universal beings called the Draconians, and they're basically the source of all evil on Earth. And that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day. But she spawned a lot of these. And so she spent a lot of time in the underworld battling and killing her own offspring because it just got out of hand. And in the end, Inky decides, I'm going to forgive you, and agrees to help restore Inanna to life. So Inky creates two asexual beings. Kirk, I'm ever going to say this name right. Kurg Aru and Kalaturu. I'm looking at my screen to make sure I say the names right. To descend into Kur, the underworld, and sprinkle Inanna with food and water of life. The food and water of life. So she's revived and she gets to leave Kur. After this, because she had committed so many wrongdoings, I, Kai, in my past life as Kai, hid her. I hid her for many, many centuries. I know who she is on this planet right now. I've talked with her, conversed with her. She's an acquaintance of mine. And I have taken those protections of hiding her away. So, any of her children that have tried to infiltrate my life, I'm like, she's over there. Go find her. Go talk to her. Not my business, not my problem anymore. So I've taken down those protections for her. But Inanna is definitely known as the lover and is beloved by the people that worshipped her. And then we get down to An or Anu, and the name of the Mesopotamian sky father and lord of firmament or the great above, meaning heaven. As above, so below, with Kai, his twin sister, being earth. So he and Kai came into being of Namu, the sea, the primeval mother of all the Sumerians, is Namu. So Kai is the earth, which was his twin sister, and they beloved each other since conception. They lay in each other's arms within their mother, Namu. And later, when heaven and earth were separated by Enlil, the young air god, and Kai, their firstborn, from the heights above where he found his sacred space. So Anu came down to Kai, living on Earth to make life grow. So Enlil ended up separating, and this is where Atlantis falls. And I had a part in that too, of cutting off that knowledge from humans because it was being used for the wrong reasons. And everything is now considered separate. But Anu came down and helped Kai establish life on Earth. And so when you hear stories about the Anunnaki, it is not this evil race of beings that just made these slaves and they wanted some gold and are manipulating humans and are out for human destruction, and they want the earth to survive. They're trying their damnedest to make sure earth survives. So since I was Kai, my responsibility on this earth is to restore earth. So I am linking back all of the power spots through the ley lines. I am doing a lot of repair work to try to make peace on Earth and try to get humans to stop fighting each other all the time. So I am very well aware of my responsibilities in this life on this earth. And as far as your universal story, you need to understand that you need to descend in order to ascend. Because life in the universe, yes, there have been wars. The Draconians have caused many wars. Mars was destroyed by nuclear war. That's been proven by NASA. Venus is the same way. You know, lots of havoc wreaked, and then people or the beings had to make their own ships that are pretty much bioships. They can grow everything they need there. It is like a full on life functioning planet, but a ship. So then they became nomads and jumped around different places. And Orion is kind of like that scene in Star Wars. I can't remember which Star Wars it is, but where they're in the bar and there's all these different kinds of alien beings in the bar. That's kind of Orion for a while. It's just like everybody and everybody stopping in and saying hello and then leaving and going, and yeah. So a lot of them became nomads after that. But I do want to show you guys some of the images that of the Anunnaki. So let's do that. There we go. Let's get back up to the top though. So these are images from all over the world. And you can see the famous little handbag that you always see in Anunnaki pictures. This was the energy source and the knowledge. Okay. It it could charge things, it could create life, it had knowledge, and it's depicted in Native American art. This one is from Göbekli Tepe. This one's obviously from Mesopotamia. This one is from Mesoamerica. So you can see the same images are depicted all over the world. And this is just a few examples, obviously. Then we get to when you see carvings of the Anunnaki, they always have what looks like a wristwatch. This wristwatch can control portals, control time and space, and time and space is linear. It is always overlapping, past, present, and future. It's not past, present, future. It's all intermingling all together. So they could open portals, they could travel different places. This is the power source to open those portals and control where they wanted to go. And I also have a picture of an Ankh right here because in ancient Egypt, the Ankh did the same thing. It was an energy source, it could open portals and do all kinds of things. And over here, you see that these people are kind of gathered around and like their hands are reaching out to this energy source. And they very much look like a Tesla coil for a reason. And an Ankh, if you look at a true Ankh with the middle inside of it, it looks like a Tesla coil as well. This is the energy source to open the portals and to create energy, period. So here is an early Tesla coil. Here is what an actual Ankh looks like. It's got the staff of Thoth in there. I will get to him on another podcast, but this was a power source. Nikola Tesla actually sent a representative of his to Egypt to go into the Great Pyramid and wire back to him what he saw. Because anytime you have past lives, that information stays with you. And so he just inherently knew that he could make this free, renewable energy. And he knew that it took place in Egypt. And that's a whole another podcast too, because I've learned his Akashic record story as I've gone along. But they had clean, renewable energy. The Great Pyramid, the obelisks, all of these things were free, renewable, clean energy. They knew very much how to work with portals, what they did, and how to create energy. So here are the members of the Anunnaki. So you got Enlil first, and then we have Enki. And while I'm looking at the picture of Enki, often when you see pictures of the Anunnaki, they have pine cones and they're holding them this way. Pine cones present themselves to me. This particular one I hold on to when I do people's readings, and I actually hold it in my left hand because that's the female hand. And then I'm writing all the information that I'm getting or seeing. And I have the person's reading done before I even meet the person. So you always see pine cones with pictures of the Anunnaki. They represent knowledge. And here is carvings of Ninhursag and Kai with Anu. So this is them in their mother's womb. They are very embraced. They're very touching of the lips. They're always in an embrace. So obviously, in terms today, we would call that incest, but it was not that way during the times of the universal beings creating life on our planet. So then here is Nana, the god of the moon. And then we have Uttu. I couldn't find a really good ancient carving of him, so I just found a graphic designed picture of him, but um, obviously the sun behind him. And then we have Inanna, our naughty, naughty gal of the Anunnaki. And this is just a carving of Anu. And so that is what the members looked like. So this is kind of a short version of a very, very, very long, complicated story of the Anunnaki. And as I do Akashic Records readings, I've only met one other member that is currently living on this planet, and that's Inanna in her current form on this planet. So it would be interesting to see if anybody else is reincarnated and living on this planet. I know that Anu is not because he is my twin and I have contact with him all the time. I also have contact with Inky all the time. So I know that they can come through and actually be here. But as far as living in a human bio body, they are not. But here is your lesson on the Anunnaki. They are not the big evildoers that a lot of people are making them out to be. And you also have to remember when you're creating life, you don't always get it right. Like, imagine yourself trying to create our galaxy, everything in it, all the life in it, and the mistakes that were made. Like, the dinosaurs got wiped out. Like, well, they're not going to elevate us to anything. So they were taken out. Then we were DNA manufactured so that they had intelligent beings that could rise above and go through the ascension process. Life is not easy to create. So you could even think about it in your own family, just having a baby. It's chaos, dudes. Like, you don't know if that baby is going to end up with mental disorders. You don't know what kind of trouble they're going to get into. You don't know what their personality is going to be like. You don't know what their career is going to end up being like. Heck, you don't even know if they're going to take care of you when you're old and gray. So, life is a crapshoot. And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong. And that's the same thing that happened here. So, very short version of a very long, complicated story, but I hope that helps everybody. I'm always up to answering anybody's questions. I will put an email link in here that you could email me. My website is currently being redone, but you could also contact me on social media. I'm on Instagram under Psychic Empath Raven Willow. On Facebook, it's just Raven Willow. I also have TikTok under Psychic Empath Raven Willow, but I very rarely check TikTok because TikTok just annoys the crap out of me. It seems to just be whoever can act like the biggest idiot, and like I just don't want to immerse myself in that kind of entertainment. So reach out to me on social media. I'll put an email address in the just bottom of the description for you guys if you have any questions and want to write to me. And make sure and subscribe and like and share. We were talking about the ancient Syrians, the alien race of Syrians from A and B and C. Yes, it did exist. It still does exist, but I will get into that next podcast. So make sure and subscribe so that you guys get all of this new information that I'm putting out that is universally known and everybody on Earth needs to know it. So bye for today and have fun studying the Anunnaki.